Hello everyone, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I will be breaking down GBP JPY in detail, and then I will quickly break down actually these five pairs. So I mainly trade GBP JPY. I'm currently forward testing these to see which one I can incorporate into my trading plan. So let's go ahead and see what's going on with GBP JPY. So as we can see from last week, I did say, if you look at my last video, I told you I took an entry around here and I see price going up into around 200. I closed my trade around this consolidation as I saw we were respecting 199.500. The 4 hour closed above it around 4 or 5 times. So this gave me indication that, we're struggling to break this area. We could potentially reverse. So I closed my trade and I took 2.25%. That was my realized risk to reward. My actual risk to reward was 3. So if price did hit my TP, which was around here, I would have took a 3% trade. But I was happy with 2.25%. So what can we see that's happening right now? If we go on the weekly time frame, we can see we are still continuing this bullish momentum, even though we've come into an area where sellers took a lot came into the market and pushed price down from what 200 all the way down to 191741 around that price. But we are still continuing to push up. We've had 3 bullish weekly candles. For me, it doesn't make sense to be looking for sales. Unless the 4 hour goes bearish and you want to take short intraday sells, potentially you can. But as of right now, over the long period, I'm looking for buys. It's difficult to actually understand where my TP for buys would be, as there's no recent PA. I would have to go all the way back to this area here, which is very outdated for me, 2015. It's not holding that much importance. Obviously, we can still give it some significance since this is the only data we have to use, so we can use it. We can see here, obviously, we are around prices currently. Where is price? Well, price is all the way up here. So again, this is a bit outdated. Yeah, we have to go all the way down to back to 2008, which was when the financial crisis happened. So yeah, it's not really the best time to be looking for levels. But again, yeah, I don't see any interest in this. The best thing I can see is, this was an area of resistance and it tapped 2036, but I think this is way too far back, you know, to hold too much importance to. We really need to let data establish itself now and give us new levels now, which will give me more confidence to trade from. I'm not really confident to trade from a level from 16 years ago, you know. So that's that. We can see on the daily time frame, we're clearly bullish as well. We had an engulfing out of this area. Price has continued to push up. We had a prominent wick to the downside. Price continued to push up. We broke above this area of resistance, tapped back in. Price continued to push up. Stalled, pushed up, stalled, pushed up. Now, if we see candles starting to close down and we see like a daily engulfing, yes. For example, if we can see something like this, you know, a daily engulfing below, I can maybe come in for that retest and look for sales back to the downside because the 4 hour should go bearish as well. But as of right now, if I go on the 4 hour time frame, since everything is bullish, for me, it does not make sense to look for sales as of right now. I can see a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. It's a bit of a mess here. I don't really want to be taking trades in around here. I would rather wait for price to come back to support. So when price is back, if price is back into this area, we saw we closed below this area, of 199, or what is it, 19, yeah, around this level. We closed below, we closed above, we rejected this area, rejected, 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 it shifted. Now, price may revisit this area again. If price does decide to revisit this area and the 4 hour body closes above this line, this arrow, that's showing me that we are struggling to break below that area again. And also the bodies could not close below the previous higher low structural point. So if that happens and we see a 30-minute confirmation, I will look for buys. The 30-minute confirmation could be, so maybe on the 4 hour, let's just say that's our 4 hour, we see a nice little wick, and then I go on the 30-minute and I see a nice little engulfing candle pattern forming. I will go for buys and I will look at my TP to be maybe the resistance that's formed when it pulls back, or into these highs right here. So that's what I'm looking for. If the 4 hour does close below this area and we see rejections into these highs, I will look for sells to the downside into this area here, which was where momentum started. You can see this is a nice prominent wick and momentum began. So price may come back here, and if we get 4 hour rejections, 30-minute engulfings, and we look like we are maintaining above this area of resistance, I will look for buys. Very, very simple. So maybe the 4 hour has to go bullish a little, bearish a little bit for us to get that pullback on the daily time frame. We could see something like that, but it's all a reaction based. We can't really predict where price will pull back to. For all we know, price may pull back here and then push up. We don't know, right? So we just need to react and see how the 4 hour and the 30-minute respect these zones. The higher the time frame, the more reliable the rejection is, and the more confidence you can have for taking a trade. Going into the no opportunities, I just put as no opportunities on here. It's more so forward testing rather than that. Um, okay, so if we go to US 30, US 30 has been good over the past few weeks in terms of forward testing. I took a trade here and here, and they both hit TP. Since then, I haven't really taken a trade, but it's very interesting and very straightforward to see what has happened with price. So let this load. It's just loading. Okay. Oops. So if we go on the weekly time frame, we can see a huge bearish momentum. We had a double top at basically 4,000, a nice psychological level, a very strong level. Price came out of this area, we engulfed, and momentum continued to the downside. Now, price, what has happened again? Price has engulfed from this area. So for me, I am more inclined for sells than buys, simply because of this engulfing and the way we came off away from the resistance. We can also see we've broken this low on the daily time frame, and we broke it with lots of strong momentum to the downside. Also, if you did want to take trades around here, you could have seen that we had one rejection, which showed us that sellers are coming into play, and this is the daily time frame as well. But then we came into that area again, and we had a daily engulfing. This gives me another indication to start looking for some sells. When I saw that daily bearish engulfing, you can now scroll down on the 4 hour time frame and see we've actually broken structure. We broke structure and we pulled back. I didn't get in on this trade because I was waiting for a bigger pullback here. I was looking for more of a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, then a drop, but the right shoulder didn't come back to where I thought it would. It actually came back and retested this previous wick low, which would have looked like a 30-minute lower low, and it retested that area. We had a few rejections and we dropped to the downside. So that's what happened on US 30. We had it engulfing, we pulled back and we dropped. Now, what has happened is we've actually come into a nice area of resistance. Price respect to this area, consolidated in this area, and dropped to the downside. If you look, daily has come into this area, and where did it stop? It is not a coincidence that it dropped into this area of resistance, which is a significant level, because even when you see here, the daily closed below this area, then eventually momentum and buyer pressure came through, and we closed above this area. What did we do? We pulled back into this zone, and you can see this wick, and momentum continued to the upside, and it continued after that zone as well. So all we're doing here is really understanding structure and trading from zone to zone. Now, do I want to buy? And I see a lot of bearing pressure, pull back, bearing pressure, pull back, bearing pressure. I think it's a bit of a risk if we look for buys here, simply because of the bearish pressure to the downside. I would rather wait for a pullback into this high and then take sells to the downside. If we do maintain below that area, or maybe we may just break here and retest. We just need to see what happens. If you did want to look for buys and you wanted to take that risk on your trade, you could, but I would potentially wait for, we had this rejection here, we had another rejection here. For me, I would potentially wait for, let's just look at the hour. Yeah, mm, wait a minute. Mm. Maybe if we came back into this area and we got another rejection, you could put your stops there and take buys up into these highs or around here. Or you could take a more conservative approach, which I would say because of the bearish momentum, you could wait for a little engulfing on the 4 hour time frame, and from that 4 hour candle, you can take a little trade like this, and the risk to reward, yeah, kind of comes to 1 to 2. Yeah, so you could potentially take that as well. But for me, I just need to see what happens, see how price reacts here, and we'll potentially look for sales there. Um, and also how the daily closes as well. With NAS, we can clearly see that we closed above this area of resistance. So we are quite bullish on NAS. You can also see price continue to push up, and it kind of saw that 18,960 on the daily time frame. We continue to push up, continue to push up. Bullish momentum had a doji to the downside into 18,500, had an engulfing, had another engulfing here. So we are clearly, let's just remove everything. We are clearly respecting these highs, around, let's say, around this level here. We can clearly see we had this rejection. We had another rejection into these highs where we had a bearish engulfing, but buying pressure held here and we tapped into this area again. Now, what is a good way to enter this trade? I'm not too sure. It's difficult to tell because the weekly is very bullish. The daily, is very bullish as well. I would say a bit tricky. I would say, let's see. We have this. Mm, I would see how price holds up here. Maybe if price, gives us a revisit down to this doji, we can look for buys, which is a very nice strong level. The daily would still be bullish. We had this rejection, we pulled back. Maybe if price can come back into these lows and give us a rejection, we can look for buys. And if we break below, we can wait for that retest and look for sales to the downside. Again, it just depends on, we're not really at a key level right now. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So it's difficult to actually say until we come into one of these zones and see how the daily looks. How the daily and 4 hour look when price gets to that area. But yeah, this is an area you can potentially start looking for buyers if price does come into it. If it breaks and retests, you can look for sales down into 18,200. But I doubt, I'm very not inclined to look for sales, especially since the weekly is bullish and we closed above this area. Maybe if the weekly this week gave us a bearish engulfing, next week, yes, you can start looking for sales. Regarding gold, gold is clearly, rejecting this area of resistance. We pushed above and we had an engulfing, similar to what I was saying with NAS. If it does similar to gold like this, exactly like gold, we could start looking for sales. Now, gold obviously has shifted bearish as well since we closed below these lows. The weekly is looking quite bearish right now. Overall is bullish, yes. Obviously, we could continue up, but since we rejected this resistance and we had a strong engulfing, I am more inclined for sales in the following week. I think there's a higher probability of that happening. Now, does that mean there's not going to be buying pressure? There may be. We just need to see and react. But since we had a three-pin formation and momentum continue to the downside, since we have rejected this area of support, resistance, you could maybe look for buys here. You can see on the 4 hour time frame, we engulfed out of this area. If pricing come back here, give us another sort of rejection and show us that it's maintaining above this zone, you can maybe look for buys into this area right here. At this area, let's just take it along. What can we see? We can see a support, resistance, support, closure below, retested close to this resistance, and we pushed all the way down. Now, for me, I can either look for buys into there and then sells to the downside, or I can look for something like this. Very simple. For me, it's showing me if we close below this area, we've had resistance in the past, we can look for sales down into our next area, next zone. Or price may give us a steeper pullback and then push to the downside. If it rejects this area and potentially retest this, moving average 50 MA, we can look for sales. Regarding EUR USD, we can see we are clearly bullish. I don't really trade this pair, but I'm just doing it because I know some of you do. So I'll just open up the chart. We can see, we've had this three-pin formation. Price pulled back into 1.085. We had a strong engulfing to the downside, and then we had a reversal. Price ended up closing above this area, this structural lower high. We broke to the upside. Let's clear this all up. I like clean, neat charts. We had a lower high, lower low. Now we've broken this lower high. Now this shows our structures become bullish. So what we need is a pullback and then a higher low. So we already had some small pullback. Is this sufficient? Is this enough for us to look for buy, sorry? I'm not sure. We can see that when price broke above this area, we saw price pull back into here, pull back into here. Could price come back into here and push up? Potentially. That's one possibility. On the daily, we are still bullish as well, and you can see this is the previous higher low area, so price could definitely come back here. But where we are right now and what we are expecting seems like it's this area right here. You know, we had a support, support, resistance, retested that resistance to make it a support, and we had it engulfing. If I go on the 4 hour time frame, we are forming lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So there is some sort of pattern around this area. So what I would like to see is for price to, mm, yeah, we we are below a resistance, it seems. Resistance, resistance. For me to even look for buys, I would like to see a break above this area, breaking these highs as well, pulling back, rejecting with a nice engulfing, and I will look for buys, into our next area of resistance up here, following our trend. You can also see that the 4 hour would shift bullish as well. So all time frames will be in sync and we can go ahead with this trade. And yeah, I'm not really looking at EJ right now, so again, it's a bit of there's not much to say. There's literally no PA. We're at all-time highs, so I'll kind of stay away from this pair because if you wanted to look for buyers, go with your TPP, and you don't really want to be looking for sellers because we're very bullish. So we need to just wait, keep EJ away from our minds, I think. There's no trade you could really say which is a very high probability trade as of right now. So yeah, thank you everyone. I hope you all were educated from this. I hope my goal is that when right now, obviously my subscribers are quite low and I'm not really recognized in the industry, but my goal is to build myself and eventually these videos in the long term will be so helpful to everyone because I do believe that I tutor, right? I tutor like economics and stuff, but I do believe when I have mastered this skill, I will be teaching this and all of this free content will just show the journey and will bring a lot of value to you all. So this is more to my future students and future subscribers. Thank you very much and I hope you all have a great trading week or the last week of May going into June. Thank you very much.